Today, we're crafting a mind. We're creating a base of knowledge, processes, procedures, and patterns of thought that will drive your AI to create exactly what you want with consistency and precision. Or in other words, we'll be teaching your AI to think the way that you think and to become an extension of you. In our last video, we created our Eidos document. The Eidos is a document that contains the spirit or the core idea of the project that you're working on. This document right here, I wrote by hand, which I realize is almost heretical these days, but I strongly recommend when you're trying to record the spirit of your project that you do so in your own words, because the AI probably will not do as good of a job as you will. Now we fed this Eidos into an agent, and we asked it to give us a visual style. Now this one was written by AI based on my Eidos document, and it's truly kind of spooky, because there are a lot of ideas in here that have been running around my head, but I never actually mentioned them in the Eidos, which just goes to show the power of language, that just clearly communicating the spirit of what you're trying to do is enough for an LLM to create all of this. So go watch that video if you haven't already. But what I want to show you right now is what it means to sculpt the data that the AI gives you, because generating text from the Eidos is already extremely powerful. Just this little bit of text right here is enough to guide the entire LLM process to create a lot. But even so, any document that you create with an LLM is going to drift, which means that we need to create a ritual to craft and sculpt these documents so that they're always a reflection of us and our thinking. Okay, so the AI created this document for us. And one thing I noticed right away is it starts the document saying, a strong visual direction for eidolons would be, which is a pretty normal AI response, but not really the kind of thing you want to start a document with. So let's get rid of that. All right, the next thing that I need to do is just read this. There might be parts that strike me right away as something that just doesn't really fit my vibe. So far, all of this is pretty good. For my branding, I'm kind of leaning into this edge of mysticism because AI, when you use it correctly, it feels a little bit like magic, because simply speaking or writing the right words can create the reality that you desire, a lot like a magician casting spells. So I thought this is a fun angle. Why don't I lean into that? All right, back to our visual guide. Let's look at the next section, visual themes. Language creating reality, symbols, glyphs, sigils, diagrams, light emerging from darkness, subtle sacred geometry, interfaces that feel like tools of power, not office software. I like that. All right, so far so good. But then look at this next section. It's given us 3 different aesthetic directions. We have the techno-mystic, the minimal esoteric, and the reality engineering interface. The problem with this is that we want a consistent visual theme throughout any artwork that we have for the company, which means that I should probably choose which one of these I want. Otherwise, if I feed this into an image generator or a web page designer or whatever else, it might get confused and give me inconsistency. On the other hand, I could also look at this as 3 different themes that are used in different places and different ways. But either way, I think I need to visualize this so that I can decide what to do with this section. So now I'm going to copy this whole document, and all I did here was switch into source mode so that I can get the raw markdown code from the file. And now I'll head back to my image generator. I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to say, based on the section titled Possible Aesthetic Directions, create an image that shows a sample of how each direction might look. We'll give that a second to generate. All right, and it gave me exactly what I asked for here. I'm going to generate another one exactly like that one just to see if it gives me a different response. But looking at these, honestly, I kind of like all of them for different reasons. Okay, I like that it put this one on a desk for me. I think it really needed the desk. Interestingly, I like this one a little bit better than the previous one, but I think I can refine this a little bit more. So switching my magic image editor, let's use this one as our before image, and we'll say, make all the fonts sans serif. Cool, let's make this bigger. You know, I am not a designer or an artist, but I personally just think that sans serif fonts are easier to read. If you are a designer or an artist and you disagree with me, then I profoundly apologize. So I'm gonna accept this. Now, the only thing I'm still not sure of is this middle one, because in case you couldn't tell by my app, I pretty exclusively like dark themes. So let's see what it would look like if it was dark. Make the theme for the middle example a dark theme. Let's see. Yeah, I think I like the dark theme better. Now looking at these two, they look pretty similar, but like a little bit different. I could actually see myself using all of these aesthetics in different situations. I might change my mind later, but I think I'm going to actually keep all of them. But now that I've seen them, there's a few things that I want to clean up. So jumping back to my document, we've got our possible aesthetic directions, and we see right here it says elegant serif plus clean sans serif pairing. So I think I'm just going to delete all of this and the word pairing and just say font, or fonts rather. These other ones don't actually mention the fonts, so I'm just going to copy and paste this so that we have the same idea throughout. Now again, these documents form the basis of everything else that we create, so we need to be meticulous about how we present them. I'm looking at this line right here. This is after this techno-mystic aesthetic description, and it says this fits the power of language creates reality idea very well. Now this line, besides the fact that it's just an example of the agent patting itself on the back, doesn't really add anything useful to this document. What I really want to know, or at least what I want my agents to know, is when they should use each aesthetic. So let's get rid of this and replace it with when it should use the aesthetic. And I said this aesthetic should be used for more decorative works, perhaps something like a thumbnail or cover art. Okay, then we have this minimal esoteric. Now, this doesn't really say anything about it being a light-colored theme, except perhaps for this word parchment here. So I think I'm going to remove the word parchment, and then I'm going to add a line under here. It says dark theme, dark slate background. Aside from that, I think the rest of this is fine. So then underneath it, let's be specific about when it should be used. Copy this down here. This aesthetic should be used for informational, educational pieces. All right, finally this last one. I think all of these are already pretty good. So let's just change this line here, and we'll say this should be used for more technical information or interfaces. All right, let's move on. But what else I think is going to make this really clear is to actually just add the image that we created. I can do this by typing an exclamation and a square bracket. This brings up my asset browser, and now I can just choose the image I created earlier. And by doing this, agents that consume this document will actually be able to also see this image. So this is nice for us humans looking at our visual style guide, and now we can actually see what these things look like. And this is also very effective for agents. Get them to understand how each of these should look. Amazing. Let's move on. So then we came to this section that it created, where it gave us some ideas for what the logo should look like. This was a nice thing for it to do, but we actually already have a logo. So having this in the style guide will actually make it confused. So instead of ideas, we're just going to put logo here. And then we're going to delete all of this, and instead we're going to just replace it with an image. I'm going to upload, and I'll just upload this one. Okay, and here it is. All right, so I'll choose this, and wow, that's really big. Okay, that's fine. Let's shrink it down some. I'll just grab this over here and maybe a little bit more. There we go. Cool, so now it has the reference to this logo anytime it needs to use it. Let's move on. So next we have color palette ideas. Primary, we have midnight blue, obsidian, deep plum. I generated this logo here long before this visual style guide existed. So how is it then that the logo matches the primary colors of the style guide, midnight blue, obsidian, deep plum? The answer is that when I created this, I used the term technomysticism as part of the image prompt. So in the LLM brain, it just has it somewhere that purple and blue is part of technomysticism. But also, for what it's worth, LLMs just really like purple and blue for some reason. You could even count it as an AI cliche. But be that as it may, I'm not mad at it because I kind of like the way it looks. Okay, so the rest of these colors, you'll notice this is what it used for these examples here. And that makes sense because we did actually feed it this style guide when we created this. But what's nice about having created this image is that we can actually see that, hey, yes, we do like this palette. All right, typography. You know, I appreciate what it's trying to do here. It says for headlines, we should use a refined serif or semi-serif font to evoke wisdom and gravity. But man, like I said earlier, I just don't like serif fonts that much. I'm just gonna replace this and it'll just say exactly the same thing, and I'm fine with that. And then I can just delete this down here. All right, and let's see, we have imagery, use abstract generated forms, constellation-like diagrams, layered text textures. I don't know what that means. Did it use that here somewhere? I don't see anything that looks like that. Why don't we jump over and see what that looks like real quick? Let's grab all the text from here, go back to our app, paste this in, and I'm just gonna ask it, what does this document mean? Layered text textures. Create an example in context. And this is important because I don't want something in one of my documents if I don't know what it means. When AI does the worst job is when you leave it to its own devices, when you leave it to figure it out on its own. What the heck? This is incomprehensible. But you know what? This is actually a result, because we need to know that every word in our document is going to be clear and coherent to the AI that's consuming it. And if the AI consuming it is an image generator, and the image generator gives me back something incoherent, then that is absolutely not a line that has any business in our document. So it may seem like a lot that I'm doing all this, but imagine how much damage this line could have done, right? Your AI documents, if you're not checking them, they have these poison lines all over the place. And I just showed you that this line gives completely incoherent results. So imagine the unreliable, unexpected results that you can get by leaving this stuff in there without checking. Yes, it's work, but folks, anything in life worth doing is going to take work. And I'll tell you what, the rewards of having a document like this that's clean and doesn't have any of these toxic lines is exponential reliable results. Okay, while we're here, I actually want to test these other ones too, because honestly, I have no idea what symbolic landscapes is supposed to look like. Let's go back. And then what does symbolic landscapes mean in this document? Show me an example. All right, let's do 4 images. All right, so this is a symbolic landscape. Okay. I mean, we'll see how it does. Now I know what it looks like, so I know what to look for if I use it. All right, so I think that's good, but I think we need to get rid of layered text textures. Avoid, these are all good things to avoid here. And this last part, this is just a recommendation. We don't actually need this in our style guide. All right, excellent. So we started out with a document that was already pretty good. Honestly, I didn't have to do that much to this document to fix it, but it was absolutely worth the time that we took, because now the stuff that's generated from this document is going to be clean and consistent, and we can expect good results every time. So at the top of this video, I said that we were crafting a mind, and what we did is craft exactly 1 file. But this is what the process looks like. This is what the process should look like. Yes, you can have AI just memorize everything that you say in conversations. You can have it manage its own memory layer, and those techniques work kind of some of the time. But if you do that, I guarantee you it's going to give you a lot of trash. Unreliability is the main problem in AI right now, and the way to make it reliable is exactly this process. It's crafting the words that you give to it. It's eliminating anything that you don't need or that could confuse it, and choosing the words that activate the AI's mind in a certain way. All these words, they work like triggers. They light up different parts of our AI, and used in just the right way, the AI becomes like an extension of you. It creates in your voice and in your character. But it takes a little time and a little care. But that should be okay, because you should care about what you're doing. And if you don't care about what you're doing, then you're probably doing the wrong thing. These documents form the mind of your AI, and the quality of the words that you put into it will determine the quality of the mind that you create. So like and subscribe. Hope you learned something today.